your deal. This meeting of the Carrollton-Farmers Branch ISD Board of Trustees is called to order at 7 o'clock on March the 7th, 2013. Please stand and join me as Richard Fleming leads the board's opening prayer.
Please bow your heads, please. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for this special day that you have made. Please continue to bless Carrollton-Farmers Branch and its mission of high achievement for all students. Continue to bless the school board, Dr. Burns, and the superintendent staff. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Please remain standing as John Matthew leads us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please be seated. A couple of items of formality. As a district, we dedicate all of our efforts and resources to our goal of high achievement for all students. And the board uses this goal to guide all of our deliberation, actions, and decisions. And you will get to see all deliberations, decisions, actions of this board in open session, with the exception of some items which may be discussed in a closed session as stipulated in the Texas Government Code, Section 551, commonly known as the Open Meetings Law. These items typically deal with personnel matters, consultation with our attorneys, and real estate. That concludes the formalities. Now, for the records, all of our board members are here with the exception of Nancy Klein and Nancy Watton. However, we do constitute a quorum and we can conduct business on behalf of the school district. And with that, we will go to agenda item 2, recognition of special guests and announcements. Dr. Burns.
Thank you, Mr. Good. What a great crowd. Of course, all our crowds are great, but y'all are really great tonight. So, thank you for being here. We're going to begin with our VIP recognitions, and I always like to start that off with a quote, and I'm going to use a famous philosopher we all know, Dr. Seuss. Today you are you, that is truer than true. There is no one alive who is youer than you. VIPs, tonight we are here to celebrate you, our very important professionals. You know, 27 years ago we started celebrating you and the ones before you, our outstanding CFB educators. This is our way of saying thank you for being you, teacher, educator, caregiver, friend, and much more. You work relentlessly every day to help our students achieve at the highest levels. You give unselfishly, you care, you work diligently. That's you, and why we're here to celebrate you. So friends and family, please stand when your you is introduced so you can recognize them as well and we can recognize you. Now, Mr. Good, would you please join me in the front to honor our very important professionals?
Good evening, Board of Trustees and Dr. Burns. My name is Kim Chow, Principal of Blair Elementary. We are here tonight to introduce to you our newest member into the very important profession of teaching, Sarah Busby. A VIP demonstrates effective teaching practices, sets high expectations, and impacts student achievement. Sarah epitomizes all of the above, and that is why the Blair family voted her into the VIP. Her colleagues had this to say about her. Sarah deserves to represent Blair as VIP because she always does her best with her students. She works very hard to be prepared for her classes and makes sure that all of her students try their best. Sarah is a hard worker whose use of talk moves in her class is phenomenal. The evidence of her success can be seen in her students' conversations and their comprehension of a topic. A coworker also states this about Sarah. Year after year, she makes tremendous progress with her kids. She has had some challenging students, and to see the progress that they make is refreshing. Sarah is the second grade team leader and has been key in this role as the new principal to Blair. Her can-do attitude, positivity, and willing to do what it takes are remarkable. Sarah joined CFB in 2008 as a fourth grade teacher and most recently has taught second grade. We recently recognized Mrs. Busby at an assembly, and some of her former students expressed why they thought Mrs. Busby was honored with being VIP. Harley said, "I think you were chosen because you are a very sweet teacher and people look up to you. They think you should be VIP because you take the responsibilities to go through all that work and they respect you, so you deserve this." Some little people are also sure to be proud of Mrs. Busby, or Mommy as she is known to them, and they are her precious sons, Sweet and Spicy, also known as Clark and Gannon, and their baby sister that is on the way. We are certain Sarah's husband and family are just as proud as we are because she exhibits the same qualities at home. Blair Elementary and CFB are fortunate to have Sarah Busby and are honored to have her join as a member into the very important profession of teaching.
Good evening, Dr. Burns and members of the board. I am Kathy Grebe, principal of Country Place Elementary. It gives me great pleasure to introduce to you the newest VIP for Country Place, Ms. LaTanya Lafreniere. And you might ask, why is she wearing a crown? Well, I'm continuing the tradition at Country Place where each VIP in the past has been crowned. And we crowned her last Friday at our Friday assembly. Also, I would like to honor her husband Joseph tonight, son Tristan, and daughter Trinity, who are also here tonight to celebrate with her. This is LaTanya's 6th year in CFB, with the last 4 being at Country Place as CM resource teacher. When LaTanya and I were discussing this honor, she stated that I have learned so much from the teachers at Country Place and believe that through hard work and dedication, anything can happen, even the impossible. She also stated, "I feel being in education has been the most humbling thing I have ever done in my life. I have met and been mentored by some of the most amazing educators in CFB. Thank you, CFB family." Comments from some of her students were, when they asked why she deserved this award, were, "I would not have been able to finish my science fair project without Ms. Lafreniere's help." Another student stated, "She helped me so much with my Betsy Ross information, and she's just been my greatest teacher. And well, that's all I've got to say." When selecting VIP for Country Place, comments from some of her peers were, "She works so hard with each of her students. She always finds creative ways to help her students master their goals. LaTanya goes above and beyond for both her coworkers and the students she works with. She is always willing to help any teacher and all students. She truly enjoys teaching. Ask her for help, and it is done." LaTanya really does care about all of her students. She always has a positive attitude. She is a tireless worker who comes in on most Saturdays to study, plan, and find new, innovative ways to motivate and inspire her students to want to keep learning. No matter what, she always has a smile on her face. LaTanya is wonderful, so very professional. Lastly, one of her colleagues stated, "There is no one more deserving to receive the honor of being named VIP for Country Place Elementary than LaTanya Lafreniere. Every student that steps into her classroom knows she will do everything to ensure their success. At any time during the day when walking the halls of CP, you can hear LaTanya teaching, and you will be drawn to her classroom. Before you know it, you are learning along with her students. Just this week, I learned a new dance move called numerator and denominator, the new and best version from Schoolhouse Rocks. You want to demonstrate it? Laughter and learning. That is Natanya's gift to her students. Natanya, thank you for all your hard work and dedication. Congratulations.
Good evening, Board of Trustees and Dr. Burns. My name is Aviance Jones. I am the principal at Las Colinas Elementary IB World School. My staff and I are here tonight to introduce you to our newest member in the very important profession of teaching, Mrs. Yan Ho. Mrs. Ho, one of our fine second grade teachers, certainly deserves this honor. She is consistent, firm, and fair with her students, but always shows them love, respect, and hope. She believes every student deserves the best education, which motivates her to be the best for every child who walks our halls. Her students understand that her high expectations are really just the care and concern she has for them. Her students shared many great things about her. One student said, "Mrs. Ho is the nicest teacher. She really wants us to learn so we can know what to do in third grade." Another student shared, "Mrs. Ho helps us when we need her. She helps me go to a new reading level." Mrs. Ho's co-workers are equally impressed with the care, drive, and dedication she brings to Las Colinas Elementary. Miss Rushing, our PE teacher, says, "Mrs. Ho is always a class act and well-dressed." Yan has high expectations and loves her students. She is not afraid to jump right in the mix and add more. Mrs. Carey added, "You never have to wonder about children progressing. Mrs. Ho is on top of it. She makes learning exciting and builds the students' confidence." Her teammates stated, "Yan inspires growth and improvement in her students and in her coworkers. She helps her students achieve at high levels and helps us become better teachers." As you have heard, Mrs. Ho is a valued and respected member of our Mustang team. We couldn't be luckier that she chose education as her career, and we couldn't be more blessed that she chose Las Colinas to practice her profession. Las Colinas Elementary IB World School, her husband, Leroy, and her son, Ryan, are at 5th grade camp, but they stand with us as well. And CFB are indeed fortunate to have Mrs. Yan Ho as a member of the very important profession of teaching. Congratulations.
Good evening. I'm Bridget O'Connor, principal of Charlie McCamey Elementary School, and it's a privilege for me to introduce our VIP, Ashley Keating. Ashley is originally from Louisiana, but she'll tell you she got here as fast as she could. She's a graduate of Creekview High School and the University of North Texas. Ashley's not only a fantastic teacher, but also a fantastic mom to two beautiful boys, Tristan and Preston. Preston's been entertaining the front row. Both in her school life and home life, Ashley demonstrates a caring that goes above the norm. When it's time for her to do her student teaching, she was assigned for student teach at McCamey with Greg Perry. Having seen her learn and grow as a teacher during that time, we knew we couldn't let her go, so we made her a trailblazer. Ashley does an incredible job of preparing her students to excel in every subject she teaches. They also learn so much more from her. They learn a teacher is there not only to teach them, but to inspire them to be the best they can be. One of her students wrote a testimonial for her. Maya So you'll have to imagine me as a fourth grader. Maya wrote, "Miss Keating, well, let's see. I don't even know where to begin. I brag about her all the time to my mom. I don't really like math or history, but she makes it fun, and I'm getting better grades, like 90s and 100s. She is so crazy, in a good way. She's my favorite teacher ever." Many more students reiterated the same feelings. They also talked about the ninja high five. Want to demonstrate? Maybe your friends will demonstrate. No? Well, another time. When you visit her classroom, you can feel that she cares and that she sees that she is willing to do whatever it takes to make learning exciting, fun, and memorable for her students. Her colleagues also have high praise for her, stating that she treats all students like they were her own children. They also say that she is always smiling and upbeat. She's also very positive and helps others see the brighter side of things. She is kind to everyone and is always checking on the well-being of others. The praise of Ms. Keating doesn't end with our students and staff. During a recent visit, Dr. Burns remarked on how impressed he was with the scaffolding of her learning targets for her students. And on Dr. Cole's last visit to our campus, he turned to me after visiting Mrs. Keating's room and said, "Wouldn't it be wonderful if every teacher was as kind and as patient as her?" We agree, and we are very fortunate at McCamey to have Ashley Keating as a member of the very important profession of teaching.
Good evening, Dr. Burns, members of the board. I'm Rosie Oliveda, the principal of the Early College High School, and I'm here tonight to recognize Gary Ruther as a member of the very important profession of teaching. Gary, one of the pioneers of the ECHS program, is a dedicated teacher with a work ethic that inspires both his students and colleagues. Over the past 4 years, I have witnessed the countless hours he has spent educating our students. He's completely selfless when it comes to ensuring his students learn. As one of his colleagues noted, I never enter his room, whether it's during his conference period or before or after school or even on Saturday when he's not helping a student gain a deeper understanding of math. Another colleague stated, "Gary is always helping students with their math. A student asked him about a pre-calculus problem at the Valentine's Day last month, and he showed the student how to solve the problem on the back of a styrofoam plate." A student stated, "Mr. Ruther will even come in an hour and a half before school starts to help me with my college trigonometry, as well as help all the other students. Even during the day, a student can ask him for help, and he'll make time. He's just a nice teacher who really wants us to learn." Students also commented that they have learned math because of Mr. Ruther's sheer determination. His focus and engagement strategies create an environment where students learn from the teacher and for the teacher. Along with his dedication, Gary genuinely cares about our students and works to develop relationships to help them focus on the goal of graduating from ECHS with an associate's degree and continuing with their education or with their career. Students will often come to him for advice even after they graduate, and he's always willing to give up his time to help guide them on their path to adulthood. He demonstrates the same selfless attitude toward his colleagues. One of his colleagues stated, "As a fellow teacher, I have gained so much knowledge from speaking with Gary about anything, from his time spent serving our country, to his teaching philosophy, to parenting advice. And as a first-time parent and a young teacher, these conversations have been immeasurably important in my professional and personal development." Gary is so authentic in his care for our students and his colleagues. Of all the accolades that can be said about Gary, there's one that is unquestionable. Early College High School would not have been as successful without him. His contributions will have a lasting impact on the lives he has touched and on our school. We are indeed fortunate and blessed to have Gary Ruther as a member of the very important profession of teaching.
Good evening, Dr. Burns, members of the board. I'm Bob Tipton. I'm the principal at the Mary Grimes Education Center. I'm here tonight to recognize Carol Gogates as a member of the very important profession of teaching. Ms. Gogates, working with the special ed department, developed the Moving On program, the Moving On Up program, which is housed at Mary Grimes. And it's not to the east side, it's all over the place. This program prepares post-high school special needs students for successful transition from school to life after school. They accomplish this through real-life volunteer and vocational experiences in which students mature and grow, with many obtaining part-time, paid part-time employment before graduating. Then, after a full day of accompanying students to job sites all over the district, once again, not just to the east side, Carol serves as the principal of the district's night school program. The United States Postal Service creed reads, "Neither snow, nor rain, nor heat, nor gloom of night stays these couriers from their swift completion of their appointed rounds." Well, if you guys have seen Carol around town, you could easily just replace courier with teacher, because you will see her moving no matter what the conditions, unless they're very extreme, with their students as they travel across the district to different job sites and through different learning experiences. Carol is teaching her students how to move through the community safely, how to use the DART bus system, be responsible workers. Carol truly exemplifies student achievement at the highest level for all students, and for her students that means the possibility of paid employment and successful contributions to the community after their school experience is over. I believe this following statement from a peer helps clarify her contribution to the school and district. Carol helps her students become involved in community projects and shows them how to grow as individuals, to become the best they can be. The students in her class grow and mature into wonderful young adults that any parent would be proud of. Carol goes the extra mile to ensure the success of these young people. Some of the students continue being involved in the community, doing volunteer work well after they have graduated from Mary Grimes. I'd like to close by saying that I have seen the effect Carol has on her students. I've watched scared, meek, shy individuals come into our building and grow into self-confident individuals ready to lead successful lives after they leave our district. Thank you, Carol, for choosing Mary Grimes as your home campus, and we are pleased to honor Carol Gogates as a member of the very important profession of teaching.
Our next recognition tonight, we'd like to recognize Target for their generous partnership with our school district. Mr. Fleming will read the recognition tonight. Representing Target are Becky Hazick, did I say that right? And Denise Warnock. Please come up.
Tonight, on behalf of Carrollton-Farmers Branch Independent School District Board of Trustees, it is our honor to recognize Target of Carrollton for their involvement in our partnership and education program. We are thankful to have a relationship with Target. Their constant outreach is an example of what is possible when a public and community of caring individuals work together to be partners in education and welfare of our students. Over the last several years, Target has partnered with Donald H. Sheffield Elementary to fund exciting reading materials for our students. Target awarded a grant to Sheffield in 2006 to fund the Read Around the World program. This grant funded the purchase of multicultural books that reflected the school's changing population. Through this reading program, the student learned about different cultures, different countries. As a result, students and families were encouraged to learn more at our schools. In 2008, Target awarded CFB ISD a grant called College Business Students Read from A to Z. There was an overwhelming amount of participation in this program, and the grant allowed us to buy enough books for each participant. Over half of our students in kindergarten through second grade, which is 228 students, were able to participate in this program. The students were very excited about reading the new books, and their faces lit up when they received their free books. Each student who completed the program received a diploma after graduating from the reading program. This year, thanks to Target's $2,000 early childhood reading grant, we are able to purchase more Spanish language books for our growing bilingual population. On behalf of Carrollton-Farmers Branch Independent School District, it is our privilege to present this plaque to Target. Target has truly exemplified a meaningful partnership between our community and our schools. You have played the most important role of all, helping our students to read. Accepting this plaque is Becky Hassick and Denise Warnock.
That concludes our recognition, so we do have a few announcements for you tonight.
Make them.
Turn your attention to the screen.
Good evening, and welcome back to the March edition of the Carrollton-Farmers Branch Independent School District Board Announcements. We are super excited to be bringing you the news you need to know for the best school district in the state of Texas. And speaking of the best, how would you like to work for the most innovative leader in learning? Sound good? Well, CFB ISD will be hosting a job fair on Saturday, April 13th at Arnold Turner High School from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. Representatives from all 39 CFB district campuses will be present to meet and speak with you about teaching opportunities for the 2013-2014 school year. Maybe you're not looking for a job, but you are looking to send your children to a great school in a dynamic district. Well, look no further, because CFB has opened its boundaries for students who live outside our district to attend specific schools in CFB. To find out if you qualify, visit www.cfbisd.edu/open. We all know you want the best education for your child. Find out why CFB is so special by checking out the top 10 reasons to choose the Carrollton-Farmers Branch Independent School District at www.cfbisd.edu/top10. CFB's annual Casey's Run, benefiting the All-Star Special Olympics team of CFB ISD, will be on Saturday, March 23rd at Standard Stadium in Carrollton. You can participate in the 1-mile Family Fun Run or compete in the 5K race. Register for both at www.cfbisd.edu/Casey. That's KACIE. Our last announcement of the night is a doozy, especially for all the students needing a break before all the state-mandated testing in April. This district spring break holiday is March 11th through March 15th. All campuses and district offices will be closed. Everyone enjoy a fun, safe week. Well, that's it for us tonight. Our next regular school board meeting is Thursday, April 4th at 7 p.m. in the boardroom of the Administration Building at 1445 North Perry Road in Carrollton. And our next work study session for our school board members will be on April 18th at 6:30 p.m. Have a great night and wonderful spring break. See everyone next month.
Let's give her a hand. I know you're waiting to clap about that spring break part, so it's okay. You can clap. So that concludes our announcements tonight, Mr. Good.
Okay, thank you. If I may, I'd like to just say a few words, especially to our VIPs. The board is truly honored that you have come to our district and have exemplified yourself in the classroom, and we are truly honored to be able, in a very small way, to say thank you for the accomplishments you're making with all of our students. And our district would not be where it's at were it not for our educators. And you truly exemplify what it's like to be an educator in Carrollton-Farmers Branch, and we are so honored to say thank you. and especially to Target. We are always so honored that businesses believe in public education and is willing to make a commitment to prove that public education is the best deal you can find. And to Target, we do say thank you. We would love to have every one of you spend the evening with us. However, I know there's some educators probably thinking, I still have other things to do before tomorrow morning. So with that, we will take a 10-minute break and then reconvene. Meeting is reconvened at 7:30 p.m. Thank you all for those of you who believed in us and stayed. Coming up shortly is an opportunity for individuals to address the board, an audience for guests. If you would like to address the board, please fill out this form that's by the double doors when you walk in and give that form to Ms. Sharon Scrivener. Also, I believe we have a couple of guests with us from Troop 581 and 583, a couple of Boy Scouts. Am I correct on that? Thank you, and hopefully you will glean some useful information at this board meeting, and we're honored that you're here with us. At this time, we're going to move on to agenda item 3A, presentation on a student achievement measurement of academic program.
Talking at the mic, can't hear you.
Am I mic?
There we go. I believe you can hear me now. Excellent. Thank you, Johnny. As I stated, we're moving to agenda item 3A, which is presentation on student achievement measurement of academic progress. Dr. Burns.
Thank you, Mr. Good. Members of the board, as you know, at each of our board meetings, we present on a program regarding student achievement in our district and about how we're doing things. And tonight's about how well we're doing things in terms of academic progress. So I'm going to turn it over to the guru of MAP testing. Some people say she's all over the map, but this is a tough crowd tonight. But so anyway, Miss Holly Barber, you all remember Miss Holly was our executive director of staff development and curriculum. She is still working for the district in a part-time capacity, and she is our go-to person on MAP, literally. So, Miss Barber, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Thank you. Is my mic on? Yep. Dr. Burns, honored board members, good evening. I'm here, obviously, this evening to share information with you about an assessment called Measures of Academic Progress, or MAP. We believe that this assessment is instrumental to continuously increasing student achievement, and by sharing the data from the MAP testing, we are simultaneously increasing stakeholder confidence and support of our school district. Well, the basic question is why a MAP, or why MAP, as in Measures of Academic Progress? Well, we're all familiar with roadmaps. They obviously provide direction. They help you decide the best route to get from point A to point B. And we believe that this MAP, Measures of Academic Progress, will help us define a reliable route to higher achievement. Several years ago, Educational Services was investigating why elementary reading scores were exceptionally strong, but when these same students got to middle school, there was an unexplained dip in the reading scores. About the same time, our science director, Susan Shipp, was wishing that we had more formative assessment that would help us determine students' science knowledge so that we could better prepare them for the 5th and 8th grade science tax tests. After considering several alternatives, we decided that Measures of Academic Progress, or MAP, would help us with these two concerns, and we elected to begin a 3-year pilot at grades 6 through 8. Northwest Evaluation Association is the parent company of MAP. Since its inception in 1977, NWEA has been a not-for-profit organization dedicated to improving the educational experiences for students. Their mission, partnering to help all kids learn, is not just a slogan. Their goal is for students to know more today than they did yesterday. MAP testing is not meant to be a post-mortem of what has been, but rather a prescription of what is yet to come. MAP is used in all 50 states, in over 120 foreign countries. Locally, in addition to CFB ISD, Grapevine, Colleyville, Plano, Irving, McKinney, and Highland Park all use MAP testing. Throughout Texas, there are 155 districts, 1,108 schools that use MAP, and last year, 265,000 students in the state of Texas took a fall and a spring MAP test. There are two key reasons why we elected to use MAP assessments. The first is the availability of national norms. Every 3 years, NWEA, through partnership with the Kingsbury Research Center, analyzes a statistical representation of students nationwide. This allows us to compare our students, class, and grade level scores to a national average. Recall I mentioned earlier a motivating factor for us to invest in MAP was the disconnect that we were seeing between our elementary and our middle school TAKS scores in reading. We learned that in order for a student to pass TAKS at the 3rd grade level, they only had to be at the 12th percentile nationally. In order to pass TAKS at the 5th grade level, they only had to be at the 30th percentile nationally. We determined that our high elementary passing rate was giving us a false sense of security. A passing score on TAKS did not necessarily mean that a student was capable of competing nationally. And as reading material in middle school became more challenging, students became more frustrated. The second, but equally valuable factor that makes MAP unique is the ability to determine growth over time. MAP scores are given in units based on an equal interval scale. We can measure a student's academic growth from one testing period to the next. In addition, we receive projected growth norms to determine whether our students are growing as much as the national average. These growth norms come from the largest database of its kind in the U.S., with over 11,384,800 unique individuals in this database and 4.5 billion with a B pairs of test items and responses collected over 12 years. In addition to national norms and growth measures, there are other features of MAP that make it advantageous. The succeeding slide will explain this feature in more detail, but simplistically, it means that the test adapts to the academic level of the student. Research from the well-respected Kingsbury Center regularly updates norms and authenticates growth projections. There are no time limits for students taking individual MAP tests. MAP data provides us the opportunity to analyze grade levels at the campus and district level. We also can look at individual student and classroom data to help determine educational needs. As soon as the student finishes the last question on the test, his results are on the computer screen and available online. And as each student in the class completes a test, class data is compiled for the teacher to access right away. This slide will demonstrate the adaptive nature of the test. When a student sits down to take a MAP test for the very first time, the only thing the computer knows about that student is his grade level. So in our example, I have a class of 6th graders. So the first time a student, we'll call him Bobby, sits down to take a test, the very first question Bobby gets is at the 6th grade level. If the student answers it correctly, represented by the plus, the computer acknowledges that, recognizes it, and then issues the second question that's slightly more challenging. If that question is answered correctly, then the third question is more challenging yet. Bobby, being the student that he is, the third question's correct as well, and the next question has an even higher difficulty level, but that one was answered incorrectly. So the computer backs off slightly to a slightly easier question. That one was correct. The difficulty level goes back up, and so forth until the test is finished. Another student in this same 6th grade class, we'll call her Holly, gets a 6th grade question to start with, but she answers that one incorrectly. The system gives Holly the next question with a slightly easier level of difficulty. That one's also incorrect. The next question's a little bit easier. That one's incorrect, and so on until Holly completes her test. We have 2 students in the same 6th grade class with 2 entirely different tests taken. Now, the next time Bobby and Holly sit down to take a MAP test, the system will remember the 226 from the one student and the 204 from the other student, and the first question they receive in the next round of testing will be at the level where they left off. That's how we measure growth. I mentioned before that in the fall of 2008, we began a 3-year pilot at middle schools. At the end of the 2nd year of the pilot, word had spread about the valuable data, and elementary principals said they wanted in on the action. So we expanded the program to add 5th grade in year 3. Encouraged by what we saw at elementary school, the next year we expanded once again to 2nd grade, and now this year, in the fall of 12, we have filled in the missing blanks with grades 3 and 4. So currently, we are testing in grades 2 through 8 in reading and mathematics. In addition to that, in grades 4 through 8, we test in science. We test all those subjects 3 times a year, fall, winter, and spring. What puzzle pieces does MAP provide for the district and campuses? Earlier, I said that we have the ability to analyze our scores at every level compared to national averages. We also receive information comparing our growth to typical growth. This gives us a reliable standard to evaluate our students' progress. With MAP, we can also drill down to look at specific academic areas of strength and need. MAP provides an overall content area score, but it also provides scores in each of the reporting categories that correlate to our state STAR test. For example, we get an overall math score for our students in our grade levels, but we also receive achievement scores in each of the sub-areas such as number operation and quantitative reasoning, algebraic thinking, or geometry. We are not where we want to be in every subject, but by examining our scores, we are able to evaluate curricular and instructional successes as well as areas of need. MAP data are analyzed and shared with content directors and principals individually, as well as our regularly scheduled data dialogue meetings. Parents receive MAP information in the fall and the spring. MAP scores are just one point of data when it comes to making instructional decisions for students. But in conjunction with other information, MAP is extremely important to help us determine tutoring needs, GT identification, pre-AP placement, and special education placement. I had the opportunity to visit with Susan Machayo at Farmers Branch Elementary a few days ago, and I asked her to share her thoughts about MAP. Susan, talk to me a little bit about how MAP has impacted your instructional work with your teachers.
Okay. MAP has affected our instructional work at Farmers Branch Elementary in a variety of ways. Specifically with teachers, it's helped teachers identify areas of weakness or strengths in their kids. During our SNAP meetings where we talk about our students and we talk about the students that are struggling, it has helped us know specific areas where to focus, and I know teachers have used it to form their tutoring groups. My 5th grade teachers specifically have actually sat the students by their RIT score in their classrooms so that kids are challenged with each other in the same RIT band. and that's been helpful for instruction.
So your fifth grade teachers have used it for some grouping purposes?
Yes, fifth grade has used it for grouping purposes in tutoring and during class.
And in tutoring, when they group the students, are they looking at the overall RIT score, or are they looking at the goal performance area? In other words, how do they decide what to tutor?
The overall score does matter, but then they've drilled deeper and looked at the goal performance score. For example, I know in the literacy area, in the reading, you may have a child who has a RIT score of 205, but then their informational text may be a 218, which tells you as a teacher that child is very strong in nonfiction. So I need to be working on their fiction or their vocabulary. And so the three subparts of literacy stick out to me, that helps us focus what we're doing with kids, and not, it really does identify strengths and weaknesses as a teacher, and for the kids.
You told me a little while ago a story about a student who came to your campus that you felt you needed some additional information about, and the MAP score helped you determine that child was probably misplaced in terms of his grade placement.
Right.
Without divulging any names, can you tell us about that?
Sure. We had a student new this year in fourth grade from another school district, and we noticed that he was quite bright in fourth grade, and we were doing some of our Fountas and Pinnell district level assessments, and the teacher said that he was already at a level T or a U, and of course she needed to stop testing because that was at a fifth grade level. And our math teacher had said that he also suspected he was quite significantly brighter than than a fourth grade level, and there were some behaviors that were occurring. And so as we investigated, when we took MAP, his reading scores were on the 8th grade level, and his science was like sophomore year, and his math were 5th grade beginning of the year. And so after investigating some reasons about previous placement, he had been retained at another school district, we decided to move him into 5th grade and to move him up, because based on all the data we were gathering as teachers, and then the MAP scores just solidified that on a national norm, and those are grades that we cannot influence, that he needed to be placed in 5th grade. So we conferenced with the parents. I explained, all the information we had, and they were thrilled that we had decided to do that for their child. So he's been in 5th grade. In fact, he's continuing to outperform on his winter test too. So
good.
Very
so
good.
That really helped him.
Yes.
Get to a better place.
Exactly.
When you work with students and their MAP scores, talk a little bit about how they are brought into the dialogue.
Okay. Well, especially at the elementary level, you need to bring the students. Students don't always necessarily understand the importance of a test, and so what we came up with is a visual, and where the child will, after they take their MAP test, the teachers record their scores, and then they get back into their classroom and they actually color on it's a bar graph. They color their RIT score compared to the national average, and then they use that to set goals for their next test, whether it's the winter or the spring or even the next grade level. And so now that we have MAP in 3rd and 4th grade, that's very helpful, because it will literally follow them, and it's a goal setting sheet, and it follows them from the time they're in 2nd grade all the way through 5th grade. So that's been very helpful. And before they take the second round of testing, the teachers, they get their goal setting sheets out, and they look back at them and remember, I made this in the fall, I set my goal was going to be this, what it was, and the kids know what they want to make on their MAP test, because when you see them test and they get to the end and the score pops up, you'll hear them go, yes, and they'll be excited because they know that they met their goal. So.
And I know that on your goal setting sheet, you also have them, once the spring test is over, they look ahead to the next school year
Yes.
and set their goal for the following fall, so that they do see one continuous cycle.
Right, and that follows them to the next grade level in their portfolio.
Very good. How do you share this information with parents?
We've shared this information with parents in a variety of ways. We've sent home letters where parents see the, I keep referring to the RIT scores. The parents see the same information that we receive where it has the national norms for grade levels at beginning, middle, and end of the year, and then where their child performed. But most importantly, I think, and most beneficial has been when we've used them in parent conferences. So when we've been able to share with the parent, this is where your child performed on their math MAP test, and this is how, where they are standing nationally.
One last question.
Sure.
If you were advising a principal from another district, and this other district was considering bringing MAP into the elementary schools or into middle schools, any school, and the principal was saying, well, I'm not so sure, obviously it takes time out of class, to test, is the bang worth the buck, what do you think? What would you tell that person if they had the option of whether or not to have MAP on their campus?
I would say it's worth the time and it's worth the money. And the reason I say that is I know for us at elementary, a lot of the assessments we do are teacher led, which have some subjectivity to them. When we do our Fountas of Pinnell reading inventories 3 times a year, even sometimes we do our benchmarks, there is some subjectivity. What we love about MAP is that there is no subjectivity. We cannot affect the scores. The children take it on the computer and then they receive a score. And what's been nice is it really validates what we have seen with our teacher assessments. And there should be a correlation so that when I look at reading levels, it should correlate to the MAP scores. And if there is a disconnect, then that's something that I look further into. And it's been a few times where maybe a child is reading on a certain level and we give their MAP test, they're 2 levels above grade level, and we're not getting that out of the child. So then the child is thinking, oh no, we know you can do better. And so that's kind of been a good thing, is that sometimes it tells us potential that we're not getting out of a child daily, and so it's definitely worth it.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Sure.
Appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Let me share some other additional direct benefits for students. Every student receives a score in each of the content sub-areas, such as literary concepts or quantitative reasoning. Teachers can access reports online that automatically group students together that have similar scores in each of the similar subtopics. These similar scores mean that these students have similar academic needs, therefore facilitating differentiation in the classroom. Furthermore, the students' scores are linked to a continuum or a list of knowledge and skills that help define that student group's instructional learning path, either for remediation or advancement. An essential part of the MAP experience is the practice of goal setting that Mrs. Machayo referenced. With the teacher's guidance, students use their fall MAP score in conjunction with typical growth projections to set a goal for spring. Looking at their detailed individual student report, the students are able to see and define their own strengths and to create a plan for achieving that spring goal based on the area of need that's also defined by that report. 2 students at Farmers Branch shared some of their goal-setting information with Mrs. Machayo.
Hello, I'm here with 2 of our 5th graders from Farmers Branch Elementary, Monica and Brian, and we're going to talk about how MAP testing has affected their learning. Okay, so thank y'all for agreeing to talk with me today. I'll let you both kind of talk about how you set your goal and how you go about making a reasonable goal for your MAP testing. Monica, you want to talk first? How do you set your goal for your testing?
I look at what I've done and then I pick a reasonable goal, like at least 2 or 3 writs up, and then I try to see how I can reach that goal.
Okay, and so for example, what did you put, how would you reach your goal for the fall testing?
I said try hard, read at least 40 minutes, and try to read 4 books cover to cover.
So that's what you were going to do between the fall and the winter testing to improve your MAP score. Okay, Brian, what about you with setting goals?
I think you need to set like a challenging but reasonable goal so you don't like but it still needs to be challenging enough for you to not like just give up on yourself. It still has to be challenging but reasonable.
Okay, good. And then you wrote also something that you would do to meet your goal.
I said I'm gonna read an extra day. I will read cover to cover.
Okay, very good. And when you meet your goal on your day of your testing, how does that feel?
Makes you feel good. Like all the work you have been doing has paid off.
And I know one other thing that y'all receive from the teachers after you do your test is you get your overall score, but you also get the goal performance areas where it's broken into the subtest. You know what I'm talking about for reading and for math. And so how does that help you as a learner when Ms. Garza shows you how you did in all the subtests of math? How does that help you?
It lets you know where you need really to pay attention on, and where you know that the things you're learning.
Okay, so it shows your strengths and then your areas where you want to focus. What about you, Brian?
Sorry, what was the question?
When you learn, like when Ms. Sanders shows you the 3 areas that are broken into, I think, print awareness, vocabulary, informational text, literary text, how does that help you know about your strengths and weaknesses in reading?
It makes you kind of think of what you want to improve on. Like if you're really strong on one subject, but you're not strong on the other, then you probably want to do something to help you with that.
Okay, very good. And last, let's talk about how do you share this information with your parents? Or do you? Do you tell your parents about your MAP testing? Okay, how do you tell them?
On the day before, I tell them I'm going to take the MAP test, and then after we take the MAP test, when I go home, I tell them if I made my goal, or I got higher, or I got below my goal, and I tell them what's my next goal.
And you tell her what your next goal is. Okay, Brian, what about you?
I'm pretty sure when my parents have my agenda, they see the MAP test is tomorrow, so I tell them what I got after I'm done testing.
Very good. Well, thank y'all. Appreciate it.
The practice of goal setting empowers students, and I don't use that word lightly, it empowers them to feel that they have control over their own learning. It fosters a growth mindset, and it also helps students learn the academic language as they set goals around words such as informational text or probability and statistics. I can't think of any better gift that we could give our students than the belief that they are in control of their future. In summary, MAP assessments are an integral part of the data-informed decisions and quest for high student achievement in CFB. I would like to thank Susan Macheo and Karen Porter for helping with those videos.
Board members, any questions or comments? Mr. Shore.
I understand, I believe, how we can measure an individual student's growth using MAP, is that? Okay. How do we measure if we are doing our job as a district using MAP?
By looking at the grade level growth, because we also have typical growth projections given to us based on the starting point of either a class or a grade level. Could be the grade level at a campus, could be the grade level at the district.
Okay, I need you to help me. So we have Campus X in second grade. And we have a MAP test administered in the fall for all those second graders of Campus X. Then they take the test in the spring. And the results are whatever they are. Hopefully, they score higher.
Correct.
And that we could pat ourselves on the back and say, because they scored higher, we must be doing a good job educating them.
Yes.
That's what we would say.
Obviously, growth is a good thing.
Okay. And I was at a work-study session a couple weeks ago, and the speaker, the guest speaker, the professor who was brought in from out of town said, for a lot of students, they're going to learn whether the teacher's present or not. So we're going to say that growth is a function of what we did. Even though it may not be accurate, we're going to say that, okay? But how do we measure district-wide? We know in this hypothetical example that the kids in second grade on Campus X went from here to here. But wouldn't we have to assume that all second graders at all campuses are going to be scoring the same in the fall? And that's highly unlikely, isn't it?
Correct.
Okay, so to check to see if we're doing our job, are we looking for the same amount of growth at each grade level from the fall to the spring?
No.
Okay, then how do we measure if district-wide we're doing our job with MAP? Because it seems like it's a great tool for the individual student. But I'm struggling to see how it's efficacious for us to measure what we're doing as a district.
Okay.
Am I making sense?
Not a statistician, but when I mentioned in one of the slides, I think it was the NWEA slide, it talked about the 11 million unique individuals with 2.5 or 3 billion test events.
A big database.
Yes. They utilize that database. And we receive information, whether it's at a campus second grade level or the district second grade level compiled together. We know what our grade level mean score is. And let's say, for the sake of argument, it was a 200.
Because all of our second graders took the test in the fall.
Correct.
And so we average those, and we've got our mean.
Yes, so we know what our mean score was. Then from the database through NWEA, we are told what typical growth would be for a second grade group of students who begin at this point in the fall. And if...
they may give us a number based upon 11 billion kids in the past, but I find that difficult to believe. That just seems like that's a mathematical projection.
Well, it is.
And that's all that it is.
That's absolutely correct. I don't want to pretend that it's anything other than that. It is just, it's a statistical average.
Okay, and I don't mean to burden this. I think it's great for the students, but I'm struggling to see how we can use it to measure district-wide how we're doing. That's not a reason not to use it.
Mr. Shore, if I could kind of add to that, we do get it in the aggregate by campus and district, and, if we're not making growth, then we have to analyze what is our curriculum? Are we teaching the right thing? And that's one thing. If it's not what they're expected to know and be able to do, then we need to look at the curriculum. And also, each of the teachers has it for them, so we look into classrooms. We really can see it as a very comprehensive look to determine not just for the kid to get better, but the grade level to get better, the school to get better, therefore the district to get better, based on a norm that says this is where we should be. If we're doing the right stuff, this is where we should be.
Here's where I'm going to cross swords with you. Because that norm is just a mathematical computation
Absolutely.
of
It is.
11 million students.
It is.
And I don't think any of the 7 of us, and candidly, I don't think anybody who's an educator in CFB wants to say, hey, we're beating the norm, so I'm going to beat my chest.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And it's just,
I don't think that we use the norm as a goal.
Yeah. No, and our goal, as you know, is from our academic index, from ERG. Okay. That's what we use for our goal. This is for the kids. Absolutely, to do their own goal setting.
All the sense
absolutely. But it does give you some sense of how we're progressing. Whether or not it's a mathematical projection or not, it does give us a feel for what we're doing. but it's not our scorecard, because our score comes at the end of the day with the academic
It's the
index.
kid's scorecard.
Absolutely.
It's the kid's scorecard when he turns in his round of golf.
Yes.
That's where we can say how he's doing.
Yep.
But I'm struggling to see district-wide.
Yeah, and maybe we're just kind of on the, for clarity purposes, but it's, the teacher now can help that kid. It is his scorecard, but now when she knows where he is scoring, now I can help him.
It's a wonderful tool for each student.
Yeah.
But I will also say that at the district level, we can analyze the different subcategories within math, or in reading, within science. And we can look for patterns or trends, either in the current school year or over time.
Yeah, when all the kids are scoring poorly in certain subjects and great in other subjects, it allows us to focus our resources on the subjects we're not doing so well.
Correct, or even within those subjects.
Sitting out of the sand trap.
Yeah.
If our
We need to hit
kids,
more fairways or we're not going to score, that's right.
if our kids are doing very well in mathematics, in everything except geometry, then we know that that's an area we need to focus on.
Board member, other questions, comments? Ms. Chaffin.
Thank you. It's really good, thank you. In listening, it appears that we've got reading inventories, we've got benchmarks, we've got map tests, we've got tax and star, and then we've got classroom tests and quizzes. Is there a way to give anybody a break from taking a test?
There are an awful lot, I agree. I would like to say that when MAP came in, we did replace other assessments with MAP. We reduced others, and I would say in the balanced scorecard right now, we have fewer than we did before we had MAP.
Okay, good.
That doesn't mean that we still couldn't and shouldn't look at, being more mindful of that.
Yeah, I like the data. I think the data is really helpful, especially for the teacher in the classroom, and the immediacy of the data is really, really good.
And although we think it's obviously an opportunity we want students to take seriously, it's not a high-stakes test the way others can be. And students don't receive a grade for it. It is for informational formative data.
Board member, any other questions? If not, Ms. Barber, thank you.
Yes.
One observation I want to say thank you for. I think providing the video clips adds a level of personality to what could just be abstract data, and I appreciate you doing that.
Well, thank you. I'm sorry the students' personalities didn't come through quite as much as I would have liked. They were a little camera shy, but, it's the way it goes.
Very good. We will move on to agenda item 3B, report on the 2013-2014 preliminary budget. Dr. Burns?
Thank you, Mr. Good. Members of the board, we'll jog our memory back to December the 20th, to be exact. We had a work study specifically to look at the topic of compensation. And from that work study, the board learned a lot about compensation, but then also provided us some direction from where to go next, so to speak, in our compensation model and package as it coincides with the budget. So we have taken those that direction that you gave us that night, and we believe we've got it in a plan that meets your expectations from that night, and so we're here to present that to you. I'm going to turn over to Mr. Hyatt now to give you a little bit more detail, but that's the picture in the big.
Dr. Burns, you've absolutely nailed the concept. We're approaching budget a little differently this year than we have in the past, and I think it's probably a significantly better approach. In the past, we have had a tendency of staff going out into the field, collecting information, putting our best thoughts together to create a budget, and then at the end of the day, sometime in April or May, we would bring to you guys a budget, and hopefully we were omniscient enough to create a budget that you thought was meeting the goals and objectives of the district. This time, as Dr. Burns said, we've actually had 2 work sessions addressing district targets, district priorities related to budget. We've taken that information, you'll see Ms. Tillman in a second, linked those previous board meetings, those previous work sessions, taken that information and used that to start the process of developing our budget, so that now when we compile that information, we're not shooting in the dark, we're not guessing at what we think you might want us to do. We've taken the information you've already given us and began with that. So I think you're going to be pleased with the approach. You're probably not going to be pleased with some of the struggle we've had with budget. I mean, there's no surprise that money is still an issue. It's no surprise that the state's still struggling with trying to help us with that issue. And we're not real optimistic that they're going to make a lot of improvements this year. But as you know through your previous work sessions, we've postured ourselves to weather the storm, and I think we can bring you at least a one-year approach to dealing with their financial situation. So, Ms. Tanya Tillman, your primary intelligence source for money and finance is going to present to you this information. Tanya?
Thank you. I think this slogan can pretty much sum up the status of our current funding system. Yesterday is history, today is a gift, and tomorrow is a mystery. So we truly are in a holding pattern on our funding structure right now, and we'll talk more about that shortly. This evening is a continuation of what we started in September in terms of having a conversation about the challenges facing the district. Most all of these are related to the resources we have available. In particular, our school funding and our finance system is one of our biggest challenges. As you are aware, we have had our first ruling on the litigation related to our funding structure, and it has been deemed unconstitutional, so we are now waiting to go through the appeal process. Some of the items that we want you to keep in mind is that CFB is still receiving target revenue from the reduction in our tax rate, and so we do have concerns because statewide that's a little over $1 billion that's still going out to districts who are on target, and we do have concerns that they could come after that money as an additional reduction. So keep that in mind, and right now that would be about $6 million to us, so we keep our eye on anything related to that topic. We don't anticipate significant relief out of the 2013 session. However, they are receiving pressure to restore some of the funding based upon their current revenue estimates. And also additional information has been released showing us dropping even closer to the bottom on per student spending, as well as average teacher salaries. There have been some proposals come out where they are restoring a little over $1 billion. The models that we have received, we do not receive a significant impact from those funds. So as we continue with our 13-14 planning, we are still assuming no new revenue, with the exception of if there is any student growth or a TRE. Those are the two ways you can still increase your revenue. Of course, staffing is our major budget driver. And you can see over the 5-year period we have made a 10% reduction in our staff, and this is total staff, all funding sources. The personnel department has completed the majority of the staffing process for next year, and we're not going to see a substantial change in this number going forward. The initial assumptions we made as we started building the 13-14 budget was no change in enrollment, no change in funding, staffing levels, compensation levels, including longevity pay remaining the same. With that information, as a reminder, for 11-12, again, we did put $9 million into fund balance. Currently, with our current payroll levels for 12-13, we're projecting approximately a $6 million loss. So with no change in operations, rolling that forward, we would be at $6 million for 13-14. In terms of fund balance, we are starting off with $82 million, with approximately a $6 million loss for these 2 years. That would put us at $70 million or 135 days in operations. This assumes, again, no compensation adjustments.
What's the number of days that's recommended to have in your fund balance? I know you hate that question, Mark.
Right. Well, we have, when we talked about this at our work
more
study.
More than twice the number of days.
Yes.
That makes the two of you feel good.
It gives the board flexibility as we move forward with our budget proposal, certainly. At our work study on resource allocation, the board did identify 3 areas that the parameters were established. The first one was to not make additional staffing reductions. The second one was to maintain between 90 and 115 days. And the last one was that there was no interest in a TRE in 13-14, minimal interest in 14-15. Then the next work study we discussed compensation, and there was 3 priorities identified. The first one being longevity pay, which was to maintain and possibly make improvements to our longevity pay. The second priority was to remain competitive in our own geographical area. And the third was to establish a district collective performance pay system for Team CFB all staff members. So as we took all this information, we started off with 2 factors guiding what we were going to propose. The first one being is that we would like to keep our realized deficit around the $10 million range. And so this would allow for approximately $4 million worth of compensation adjustments. With that in mind, what we would like to propose for consideration would be to add a $500 payment to our longevity pay plan for employees that are at 20 years or above. Many of the tables discussed that they felt like people at the higher end on the longevity pay should be receiving a little bit more money. So we thought we would add $500 for that group. It's not going to progress. It'll be just an additional $500 whether you're at 20, 25, or 30, but you'll still receive the same amount that you originally received on a per year basis. We would also like to propose a 2.5% general pay increase for all employees, which addresses Board Priority 2 on maintaining competitive market. This would allow us to increase our beginning teacher pay to $47,100, up from $46,340 currently. And then the final item was to implement a collective pay plan, performance pay plan. And what we would like to propose is that all employees that are employed February 14th, 2014, if our academic performance indicator results rank us in the top 10%, which would be 20 or better, would receive a $250 one-time payment in April, or a total of $500 in 2013-14 if our API results rank in the top 5%, which is 10 or better.
Ms. Tillman, that's for 12-13 results, though. Okay, it'll be in the 13-14 year for the 12-13 result from ERG API.
The estimated cost for each one of these items, the longevity adjustment would be very minimal based upon how many we had this year. At that level, we had 63 employees that received a 20-plus year longevity payment. The 2.5% pay increase would be approximately $3.2 million. The collective pay performance for top 20 would be $756,000. If we made the top 10, that would be an additional $756,000 for a total of $4,795,000. If we take those numbers and project those out on our fund balance, that would take us down to $66,160,000 as of August 31, 2014, which would be 122 days. This assumes the $4.8 million in raises. If we roll forward from 13-14 with no other adjustments, in 14-15 we would be at 103 days. At that point would be where we would be in a position where we would need to be calling an election to maintain that level if nothing has changed in our funding structure. I know I covered this information really quickly. Our next steps, our major steps in the budget, we've already allocated the departments and campuses. They have started the process of creating their budgets. They're all receiving the same amount for operations as they received in the prior year. We'll receive our appraisal district preliminary notice in April of our values. We would like to come back in May for consideration of adopting the compensation plan for 13-14, which would allow our personnel department to be able to hire and know what the beginning pay is, and also our June employees would start off with the correct amount of pay. In July, we would receive our certified values, and then we would move forward with our normal process of adopting the budget and tax rate in August. And I'm sorry I don't have any videos to go along with this presentation.
I apologize.
I'll work on that for next time.
Mr. Hyde, do you have any other comments before we?
Only that this is obviously not an action item on your agenda tonight. We're not asking for a vote. We felt like, and Ms. Tillman's going to put a lot of work in, and we felt like that we've met most of your targets. We've met most of your direction. And I recall, and I'm not naive enough to think that we were all 100% on every item on every work session. So, I know that this doesn't meet everybody's perfect package. But I do think it hits most of the high points. It addresses most of the areas that the board collectively felt were important. Most of you know that I'm probably the paranoid in the room that doesn't want to make commitments that we can't pay for in the future. The bar chart that Ms. Tillman showed that shows the drawdown of fund balance over the future years, what that illustrates for you is that while it is a little disconcerting that we're going to take $10 million out of reserves, and that's not something I suggest lightly, we do have a brief window that we can do that without causing you great concern. And over the next 2 to 4 years, either the state or we or both of us are going to have to do something to address the revenue stream for all school districts. I believe that something will have to be done at the state level to help this modestly. I think that we locally are probably going to have to step up to the plate and do some things to help ourselves. If we can't do that in the next 2 to 4 years, then we'll have some big problems. That's what that bar graph shows you. But I think that's a risk that we should take, and we owe it to our employees and our kids to keep moving forward and not wait on everybody else.
Yeah, well said, Mr. Hyde. And again, I'll just add my 2 cents is, we value high achievement in this district, and so we listened at our work studies, and we said we believe we hear you selling us. We need to reinforce that in what we do with our budget, and so this is, I think, strengthening our support of our goal to say we value that achievement, and when we achieve it, we need to recognize our employees.
Board member, at this time, any questions or comments? Mr. Shore.
Tanya and or Mark, this may be a difficult question, but this is the way my mind works on this. A 1% across the board raise costs how many days of the fund balance?
Oh, you really made it difficult.
1% is 1.3 million, and it changes the daily amount, but it would be around 540,000 a day.
No. How many days of the fund? Right now we got 135 days in the fund balance.
We've got 160.
160.
Right.
After this package, it would be down to that.
Yes.
This package is going to
Okay, but this is a 2.5% increase.
Yes.
Okay. To help my mind, each 1% raise brings the fund balance down how many days? Or if you could get that
I'm going to make a quick guess about.
I'd say 1.5 to 2, wouldn't it be?
About 2 days.
About 2 days. Maybe a little more than 2 days.
Okay. Then I have one more question. At some point in time, I'd like someone to tell me the thought process behind the $500 for the 20-year and longer employees, because here I'm about to win friends and influence people. It seems to me that we've already hooked those people.
Yeah, we have, Mr. Shore, but that was one of the things in our notes from the work study that we got from the board was they said, we want you to add a little spice to this. And so I have a general way to say it.
Got those people.
Well, we agree. But at the same time, it was one of the things that came out of that work study, and we took all the notes, and that was we'd like to see a little more in it. And so, all of this is flexible. Obviously, it's not set in stone, but
because those are the ones who are most likely, their roots are pretty well planted.
Yeah.
And they probably should be rewarded a little more so for that.
Okay, that's a fair response.
And I think that is the thinking, is we do have them. And, we started longevity. It was a little bit of a retention strategy. But guys, we really know it's about recognizing and valuing our employees. It does help a little bit. You're absolutely right. We already got them if they're here 20, 25 years. So it's not about retention. It's about recognition and award and acknowledging to them how much we appreciate them.
And those are important. I'm not diminishing those.
And so that's the thinking behind that, with that extra 500 for those. And you're right. We got them. They're not going anywhere, but we're saying thank you.
That's not a reason not to recognize them.
Right.
We're saying thank you.
Board member, other questions? Seeing none, Ms. Tillman, thank you for your presentation.
Thank you.
Mr. Hyatt, you want to fill in what we're going to do next?
Well, as Mr. Tillman said, our intention is, based on this modest feedback here tonight and continued internal development, and we'll have conversations, informally, but our intention is to come back in the next couple of board meetings with a proposed compensation package to vote on and actually implement prior to the actual adoption of the complete budget. That way we can set our compensation, set our raises, begin moving forward to that, so that again, as Ms. Tillman said, so that our HR department can proceed forward with hiring and offering jobs and salary schedules, and our employees can anticipate their raises being implemented at the very beginning. For those of you who've been around, and Mr. Matthews, I know you remember, back in the days when we used to have to wait for taxable values to come in August, and we always get late, there were some years that we didn't actually implement raises till September. And I remember one year not even until October, so people would have to get a retroactive raise, and it's really frustrating to be working the first couple of months of the year knowing you're going to get a raise but not knowing what it's going to be. So
I think that would help morale a bunch. The sooner the better. Yeah.
It's very helpful.
So unless we hear any angst regarding this, we're going to proceed forward and bring this back to you. Any angst in the what or how much it's going to impact us, let us know, and we can massage it. But we're, as Mr. Hyatt said, we're planning to get this behind us, move forward, and then, get the new people hired and thank the people that are returning. So, is that it? Yes, sir.
Ms. Tillman, thank you. We will move on to agenda item 3C, which is report on construction. Dr. Burns.
Thank you, Mr. Good. Members of the board, we do have a short report on construction we'd like to share with you tonight. So I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Hyatt for a little bit more detail, but I think you'll be pleased with the progress what we've got started already. So,
thank you, Dr. Burns. This is just an update. The board is aware that we're in the process of building a replacement building for Las Colinas Elementary School and doing an expansion on Ted Polk Middle School. The planning on those projects is moving along rapidly. We've got some planned designs, and before we actually started building a building, we thought you might like to see one last look at the floor plan and what we're going to be building out there. So I've asked SHW Group to come tonight. Mike Elmore would be the lead architect to introduce the topic, and he has with him Dan Fletcher and Mike Hall. So Mike, if you will introduce the topic and just lead us through it.
Okay. Thank you, Mark. Thank you, Dr. Burns and school board members. It's a pleasure to be here tonight. Like Mark said, we have two projects to present to you tonight. The first one is Las Colinas Elementary School, and it's a 94,000 square foot building. It's going to be a very similar project to Good Elementary School, where the existing school will stay out in front, and we'll be constructing the new building back behind it and to the left side if you're facing the front of the school. So you'll see that on the site plan here. It is a two-story school. It does house grades K through 5. There's a couple alternates that we're going to be bidding on it. So we have the base bid will be the total school project that you'll see here tonight. But then we do have 6 classroom addition that will be bidding as an alternate, so we'll get price on that. So depending on where we are on the budget, the board can either elect to take that alternate or not. And it's a first alternate is a 6-classroom addition. The second alternate is a parking lot that's located on the left side of the project. So I'm going to turn it over to Dan, and Dan's going to walk you through the project and show you where we are in the project right now.
So as Mike mentioned, there we go. So as Mike mentioned, this is a replacement school, so what we're looking at now is the site plan or aerial view of the existing Las Colinas Elementary School. So I've shown the perimeter here in yellow. To the north we have Kenwest Parkway, and to the west, south, and east we have the community of Hackberry Creek. The site is bordered by the community and the church to the east, and so the area that you see here is where we're proposing to place the new elementary school. So here you can see the new elementary school as well as the perimeter of the existing elementary school. We have new drives here, which is parent drop-off. The entry to the school is located here. We have parking, as you can see, here and here. You can exit the school here. We have a drop-off here for the lower grades, as well as parking. On the back side of the site, you can see we have a bus loop, which also serves as a service drive. The kitchen and back of house areas of the school are located here. As you come around, the fire turnaround here also doubles as a hard surface play. As we look at the lower level floor plan of the school, and its programmatic organization, you can see these blue areas that are located here and here are the classrooms. We have kindergarten first located in this area. We have the second and third grade house located here, and then in between the two academic wings we have the shared program spaces. So as you enter the school, you have the admin area over to the one side, and then you have the library over to the left. We have dining and kitchen here. We have the fine arts area and the gym located here. If we look at the second level, it's very similar to the first. We have the fourth and fifth grades up above the second and third grades, and we have the counseling area that's just above the admin. Here we're looking at an aerial view. This is from the northwest corner of the site. And from here, I'd like to take you on a virtual tour of the school. So you can notice the two-story volume here that houses the upper level grades, and the lower level here that houses the lower grades. We have, as we circulate around the school, well, let me step back here for a second. You can see the entry here as we have the parent drop-off. We also have a canopy that's protecting students as they're dropped off to the school. As you can see, there's quite a bit of stacking distance for students or for parents to line up as they're dropping off. In between the dining and the lower grade houses, we have a protected courtyard that houses a play area for the lower grade levels, as well as a covered area just off of the dining. So come around to the back, you can see here's our turnaround for fire trucks, which also doubles as the hard surface play. We also have another play area here. This is the gym volume that you see here, and this is the fine arts area as well as dining. As we come to a more pedestrian level, you can see the canopies that are protecting the entry as students are dropped off. You can also see the brick colors that we have here, which are drawn from the masonry found in the fences that surround the site, as well from the surrounding neighborhood. As we come into the entry lobby, you can see there's a connection to the outdoors, as well as a sense of openness and transparency as visitors are welcomed towards this entry lobby. As we look to the right, here's your admin space, as well as your secure vestibule for check-in. And now we come to this main corridor circulation here, as well as the circulation to the second level above. We have a world map graphic here, which allows the building to become a teaching tool. We have the clocks here that represent the IB program, as well as the cities that are represented by those time zones. Here you can also see on the floor what we've started to do in the floor patterning is create these stripes that students can use for wayfinding. As we come into the dining area, we have the stage. As you follow this wayfinding line, students are directed toward the serving line and the kitchen beyond. As we transition to that protected courtyard area, we have a covered area here, and we have a hard surface play, and there'll also be a fence here that's protecting this courtyard. As we come back into the interior, we take a look into the library space. And again, here we have another connection to the outdoors, introduction of natural light that's protected by the canopy on the exterior, and we're defining this open area with ceiling clouds above. So we continue on into one of the academic corridors. You can again see these patterning of the floor, directing wayfinding. We're also indicating entry into these classrooms by introducing color, both on the floor and the walls as well.
Each classroom, it's almost a district standard, each classroom has a tack board directly outside the classroom for student display. So I think that's a very nice touch.
And that concludes our virtual tour.
This particular project, we are just completing the construction document phase on that. So we're finishing that. So we're a lot further along on this project than on our next project that we'd like to present to you. And that's Polk Middle School. In Polk Middle School, we're just in the schematic design phase of it. We have both of these projects. We've worked with the staff and gotten input, had several meetings, information going back and forth, made changes as requested by this district. Polk Middle School, as I said, is schematic design is our first phase of our process that we go through in the construction of a school. So we're definitely not as far on this project as we are on Las Colinas, so we don't have a placard on this, but I think you'll get a good idea of what has been requested at that campus. And I'll let Mike take you on this presentation.
Here on the screen, we're showing an aerial view of Polk Middle School. Kelly Boulevard is on the plan south of the building. And what we're looking at doing is having two additions to the campus, a classroom addition on the southwest corner of the campus, and as an alternate, we would look at adding a cafeteria addition right by the main entry at the front. One of the things that we're looking at doing is adjusting the fire loop around the building for that addition for the classroom area. On the main level, the upper level of the campus, here we have the cafeteria addition, and to the plan left we have the classroom addition. We have 4 classrooms and a choir room with support spaces and restrooms. And on the lower level we have a multi-purpose room and additional classrooms with restrooms. And on the right side of the plan, we're looking at doing some renovation work, adding 3 classrooms and admin support spaces, and then doing some minor work over by the library space. And with the addition on the exterior, the goal here is that the addition is seamless with the existing building, so it all looks like it was there at the same time. So we're repeating a lot of the banding, the brickwork, and the brick colors with the addition. And that's it.
I'm sure the board remembers, but the Polk project is I started to use the term simply, but it is simply addressing an enrollment need. That school is larger than it was really designed to be. We don't see any significant decline in that enrollment population in the next few years, and so we're just building some classroom space and a little breathing room for those kids so that we can more adequately and comfortably address the learning environment.
What do you propose to do with the choir room that's already there on the northeast side of the upper level? I mean, you did mention you were going to put a choir room on the southwest.
Yeah, there are other, I don't know the specifics of it, but their existing music programs would expand into that because they had asked if there was a possibility that's where they were the tightest in there. Originally, we had classrooms. The 2 stories on the left end here were just total classrooms, but then working with the staff, they asked if it would be possible to delete a couple of the classrooms in order to make room for a choir room. So that's when we came up with this solution here with them. Right. Mr. Matthews, because of the number of students that have grown over there, the existing fine arts programs have literally ballooned beyond
They're all in that one hallway.
It's all in that one hall. And I believe, Michelle, weren't the orchestra meetings on the stage?
Definitely. Yeah. Orchestra and band have sectionals meeting on the stage, so.
So by creating a new choir hall down there, we free back up some of the old choir hall to address the band and orchestras.
Okay.
When you add the additional classrooms, what's that going to do to your staffing count?
Well, it won't change the staffing count because
there are classrooms meeting in portables outside now, so those teachers will be able to come inside.
Okay, thank you.
And it's a good aside. I mean, we've been very fortunate, and this board's been very, very, very progressively thinking. This is the next to the last campus we have in the district that actually is using a portable building. So if we adjust this space need, we're down to just a very, very, very nominal number of temporary classrooms in the building, which is positive for several reasons. Positive one is, frankly, we'd like to have all our kids in the main building so we can take care of them and keep them safer and it'd be a better learning environment. The other thing it does is it gives you some flexibility for ebbs and flows in enrollments. If we're not pressed to the very ends of our capacity of a building, if one year we have a large class, well, we can deal with it for 1 year. But if you're already in 6 portables, that gets to be pretty difficult.
Board members, other questions?
Yes. Could we go back to Las Colinas a minute, please? And could we look at the front entrance of the building in specific interest in how we're doing security at the entry of the building?
Yeah, we kind of blew right through the doors on that.
Uh-huh.
Mike, if you can point to it and show them that we have the double vestibule there where
Right.
you enter into the first set of doors. The second set of doors are locked. And so you have to enter into right there to the right. You have to enter into the office area and get your clearance or get your tag. And then there's a door that comes out of the office area that allows you to go back to the school. So once you've checked in.
Is there security on the door into the office area where I would actually have to let someone come in as opposed to they just walk in on me?
Once they enter the building, the second door.
Once they're in the airlock area?
Right now, we have not been putting locks on those doors. If it's it
hasn't
could be
been a standard
easily.
that we've been utilizing. None of our buildings have interior security on those doors. Those, again, it's a standard we might revisit. Obviously, it's something that's on all of our minds, but to a current industry standard, and it's definitely current district standard, directing non-student traffic, obviously, and that part of the way this designs work is so in the major entrance and exit part of the day when students are going, they go in and out the doors. Right. We don't secure them down and make them go through one at a time.
Right.
But, once school's in session, once we lock down, we treat the front door of the building to some degree like an office environment. People can walk into the office unimpeded, if you will, but they have to address an adult and deal with an adult before they can enter the school.
We might want to think about revisiting that.
Some districts have, not on the door that you enter the office, but on the door that the office personnel allows you to enter the school. Mm-hmm. They have a buzzer under the desk there on that door, so that door's locked, so they can't come in and then take off through the door unless that door's...
Blaylock has that, when you enter Blaylock, the secretary, you check in, and then she buzzes you through the door.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good.
That's something that could easily be added to the project should the district wish to. So.
Okay.
Other questions? I do have two. I believe at the beginning you said at Las Colinas there will be an optional part of the bid to include 6 additional classrooms?
Yes, there are those 6 classrooms up on the right there.
Okay. So you actually, all your plans already show those 6 classrooms?
Right. We're going to bid the project as a total package.
Okay.
And hopefully with the bidding climate that we have good numbers that come in and we're able to do that. Should the district decide you don't have the funds to do that, then we can lop those off. And then the parking lot that was located directly to the north, right up there, that's the other alternate for a parking lot out there. So.
Good. Mr. Hyde, my next question is, when we built La Valita, there were a number of unexpected requirements that came along. I believe it had to do with brick and landscaping.
Right. There were some...
In this Hackberry Creek area, what are the unexpected that's going to catch us?
You have a great memory. It's I actually reminded our architects when they began the design process on this that not only did we have it with La Valita, we actually had it 25 years ago when we built the original Las Colinas with the Las Colinas Homeowners Association. Apparently, 25 years later and outside of the La Valita zone, they're not as imposing with their architectural design requirements as they once were. We've addressed that. We've talked to in fact, architects have done a great job meeting with the Homeowners Association and the architectural people out there, and we have met all their requirements. In fact, they didn't really impose any on us. They like our design.
Very good.
We are maintaining, there's within their development, there's the drop-off lane on there. We are maintaining, we're down here on the lower left.
Okay.
That's, we're maintaining that, not touching that, so that'll still be utilized.
Okay, excellent.
And our intention is, unless we just cannot work it into the budget at all. Our intention is to go ahead and build the larger school. The enrollment out there is continuing to grow. If you've been out in the west part of the district, you've seen that's the only part of our district that has ongoing construction, and there are still developments yet to come on the drawing board. So we feel like we need to build some capacity out there.
Okay, very good. I believe that concludes all of our questions. Mr. Aramore, thank you for the presentation.
Thank you very much.
We will move on to agenda item 4A, audience for guests. Ms. Scribner, do we have any audience for guests?
No, sir, we do not.
Very good. We'll move on then to agenda item 4B, our consent agenda. Our consent agenda is a mechanism whereby we can approve a number of routine items, a single vote. This is in compliance with the Texas Open Meeting Act, whereby board members have been provided with ample information about these items in advance for discussion and/or any further questions. And during this time, prior to taking any action on the consent agenda, board members, remember, you may request withdrawal of individual items for clarification or discussion. Are there any items on the consent agenda you would like to pull? Hearing none, seeing none. Board members, what is your desire on the consent agenda? Mr. Shore.
My desire is, because we're going to be losing Lynn Chapman very soon, that she be allowed the honor of moving that we approve the consent agenda.
So kind of you, Mr. Shore. I've never been shy at stepping up.
Just want to give you the opportunity.
Ms. Chaffin, do you have something?
I have a motion, Mr. Good. I'd like to move that we accept the consent agenda as presented.
Do I have a second?
In honor of Ms. Chaffin's motion, I second that motion.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of the agenda item, please signify by raising your hand.
Approving the agenda.
Approving.
Yes.
That is unanimous. Thank you. So that was not that difficult. And Ms. Chaffin, thank you for making that motion.
You're so welcome.
We will move on to agenda item 5, comments from board members regarding posted agenda items. Board members, anything you wish to say? This is your opportunity to express yourself.
I would, please.
Ms. Chaffin.
Thank you. We had a work-study meeting in February, and there weren't very many of you here to watch it, guys. And we were talking about the effects of poverty on student performance. And Dr. Cloyd Hastings had a wonderful presentation where he was looking at the gap that runs for student achievement between both demographics and socioeconomics, and how we've progressed over the years. And I want you to know how proud I am of this district, and I think we ought to post that on the website and do a little advertising with it.
Absolutely.
And I can say that because of number 19, which was an agenda item for the board meeting, work-study meeting that we had.
That's exactly right.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Any other comments? We're moving right along. Seeing none, we'll move on to agenda item 6, which is closed meeting. Dr. Burns, do we have anything for closed meeting?
No, sir, we do not.
Based upon that, we have reached the end of our agenda, and unless there's any issues that have not been addressed, this meeting is adjourned at 9:03 p.m. Thank you.
I hit the gavel for you.